Hello, everybody, and welcome to our first episode of the podcast. And yes, if you're thinking about it, the podcast is spelled with a CAS. Now,
it's a very funny joke, but yes, the podcast.
Anyhow, I'm Shinn, your main host, and this is Changnoi, my co-host for this podcast. He'll be joining me throughout various or some episodes throughout this entire podcast journey. Anyhow, so you may be wondering, what is this podcast and how did it really came to be? Well, as you know from the name itself, the podcast is a CAS project for my IB diploma, which is International Baccalaureate, which is a high school program.
Making sense. Thoughts to call it the podcast, spelled with a C. A dumb pun for our name. We're already off to a good start. This is the best start. Our reputation's already down there, Shin.
Well, if our reputation is indeed down there, then I guess you can say there's nowhere to go but up.
Okay, yeah, very positive. But yes, the podcast, right? You're the lead and head of this whole project. How'd that ever come to happen? Mm-hmm. That's what you really go on.
So my initial idea for a podcast as a CAS project was I would be interviewing other groups of CAS projects. So my peers and friends who are also in the IB program, and we'll be interviewing them about their CAS projects, how it came to be, their thought process, and their reflections on it. And we would do some maybe questions and answers, ask them about their opinions on the CAS project itself. Basically, we would be similar to leeching off other people's CAS projects.
Exactly that. Leeching. Perfect word for this.
Now, I thought maybe that's not the best way to go about the podcast. So I had another similar idea where it will be more focused towards my school, and I will be interviewing people of different grades in my school.
I was lagging out, Shin. I can't hear you.
And probably getting a more general idea of what the school is like from the different people of the school. But then I thought, then the podcast wouldn't really be for a wide audience because it would be only specific to our school. So then it came to this where, hey, how about we just make a podcast as a CAS project that's just generally about the IB program itself. You can expect some things maybe we would be interviewing some
alumni,
coordinators
perhaps?
From our school, interviewing students' experience, seniors, alumni, as my co-host said, and possibly even international students, if you would like.
Students, so a lot of involvement there, and definitely a wide variety of people to pick from.
And of course, as I was planning our podcast, we of course have encountered this great pandemic that has stopped us from easily being able to go outside, find people to interview, and actually do live interview with people. But
at least we're still here, you know.
Yeah, at least
we're getting this recorded.
Although with some not the best quality mic, and possibly.
This is the second take. Am I allowed to tell them that?
Please don't. They will figure out themselves from this conversation. Anyhow, it would obviously be much preferable to do a live podcast in front. Not only would it be easier to record with less delay, it would also allow us to interact more freely with each other. But what can we do? But
it's as simple as that.
At least this pandemic does open more topics up for possible discussions. For example, I've heard about the commotion from some alumni and some student room posts online regarding the IB class of 2020 and how the majority or many people got scores well below their predicted grade, and they weren't sure why that was the case, and they have every right to be angry because the only explanation the IB provided them with, according to them, was we use historical data. So that would be another topic that we could maybe invite like a coordinator or maybe an alumni to see how this pandemic and the drama regarding the class of 2020 has impacted these students' ability to get into certain colleges or those sorts of
Disrupt
things.
like a lot
Because
of
I have heard
plans.
some stories of people of students losing scholarships over like a 7 point drop on the IB diploma, and some people even failing the IB diploma despite them getting a very solid predicted grade for passing. So those are some things that you could expect to be talked about on this podcast. But that's just one of the many things.
Fun little
So
collections of stories and information. There's bound to be a lot of hidden gems out there that we'll try to unearth. Hopefully in an entertaining way too, but we'll see. We'll see.
anyhow, to generalize the question, what's the point of this podcast? Well, as previously stated, it's the place for us to interview a variety of people involved with the IB diploma, and this includes both staff and students alike. I really hope this podcast can be some sort of an inspiration to
For
some
you
other
or
people,
students, yes.
or maybe some parents who are listening into this. They could get some experience and information regarding the IB diploma and could be considering, should I put my students in the IB diploma or send them on the way of the advanced placement program? Which is a possible topic that we could talk about in this podcast if we can get the people to come in an interview for that. But
And try and discuss the differences between the two, like
yes,
on a more personal manner rather than the surface one.
yes,
The Most of the college meetings we've had so far gone over. We want to know what happens personally and in their actual experience.
yeah. The advantages of podcasts, in contrast to like as my co-host said, colleges meetings, for as like of course you students have experienced before where on one day the teacher sent you an email like meeting in the conference room for a college meetup where they bring in a presentation and then they have a big slide to this is the IB diploma, and then over the next few slides they just have like slides filled with massive information, but those information are generally only about like what courses you can take, what are the requirements, what are you expected to do, where is the IB diploma applicable, what advantages do you get, what sort of course where you might get to expect. But
What's going to happen, right? It tells you what's going to happen, what you should be able to expect to happen. But the reality of things is often different from that. And we want to get to interview and really dig deep in, get like personal statements from different people, the things that happen.
yeah, because
Instead of
because not often do you get anecdotes from seniors and alumni of the program itself. We
sometimes.
think that this will be a great podcast and bring more people onto interviews and gather anecdotes and have some discussion about these anecdotes, and this will provide information about the program itself that is hard to find or might not even be seen like elsewhere. And of course, with the pandemic becoming prevalent, it is about not impossible, but more difficult to go out and have social interaction. Although people do it, and I am a little bit against this, especially maybe from some news of people gathering, despite maybe the cases not going down.
Really, yeah.
But
Also, yeah, as like a final goal though, well, as like the end all be all that we want to reach is to those new students in ninth grade and middle school currently thinking, like in 10th grade, ninth grade, currently thinking about applying to either the IB diploma, AP, well, mainly the IB diploma. We're going to be able to provide a lot of information from a more personal standpoint, and we hope that's valuable to at least like help influence your decision.
anyhow, this episode just kind of served as some mild
Yeah.
introduction
Uh,
episode. I mean, we're not really going to be delving into content because it's just the two of us. We've known each other for quite a few years, or quite a lot, a few years. So, and we just been going through the IB diploma together. So you might expect us to, talk about our own experience also. But that's not going to be so much with this intro episode. So, yeah. Before we leave the episode, do you have anything to say?
Is my mic working? That's my question.
Well, I guess we'll just have to see. I finish editing the episode if the mic is working fine, or is it buzzing out like crazy.
Your mic me. I don't want that again.
This seems like the case. So, anyways, I hope you guys are interested in joining us in this series, and
enjoy the buzzing from my mic too.
Enjoy the buzzing. Hopefully, both of us can get a better microphone soon for the better health conditions of your listeners. But yeah, that's gonna be it. If you have any questions, if you want to be part of the podcast, that could maybe fit in if any other IB student, that might fit into your CAS activities instead of just your CAS projects. Get that filled up. But anyhow, we look forward to talking more about the IB diploma. And I do look forward to talking to more people, and really look forward to when this situation of a pandemic ends so we can do better recordings live. Anyhow, that's gonna be it for today.
2,000 baht, I'll buy an actual mic.
And who saved you the trouble of your ears by just ending this here?